Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Like, share, comment, subscribe, become a channel member where you'll get access to all archive videos, support independent media, super chats enabled, super thanks
Hello,
for the
everybody.
uh, super thanks for the replay gang. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dr. Thunder Music, all one word. Spell out the word doctor. And if you'd like to feed me sandwiches, well, all methods apply. Thanks for being here. It's been a minute since um, we did the show, and this show is Two Dads React, and that's my collaboration with Tony from God Rules. And Tony and I have been best friends since fifth grade. Best friends since fifth grade, and I spent a lot of time at Tony's place, and we know each other well. We went to the same school all the way up into school system all the way up until senior year of high school, and have remained in touch. Tony is a father. He's a husband. Um, and we have that in common. And so we are reacting to what it is that we're seeing in the world. Now, I have a morning show, Rolling Thunder. It's a Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with an open panel on Fridays. Tomorrow is Friday, and in that show, the focus is on black men and black boys. It is on the rebellion against the natural order. So I highlight a lot of dysfunctional stuff that's going on, and I address it from a Christian worldview. I'm an Orthodox Christian, and I am a father and a husband, and I'm all of these things. I'm an academic. I'm a musician, and so I bring all of that with me as I'm, it's social commentary. On Two Dads React, our focus is more on general world events, but it's also about this rebellion against the natural order. And of course, the natural order is God over man, man over wife, wife over children. With that natural order, you have protection, and you have the sort of basic building blocks for society and community, for community and society, healthy families, all of these kind of things. So we're going to be looking at intently at a couple topics today. In particular, the name of our show today is a strange shift is happening in the world. A strange shift. We'll be talking about the new Pope, Pope Leo the 14th. We'll be talking about Francis some, and how is Pope Leo and Francis different? How are they similar? We'll be talking about these Syrian sanctions that have been lifted by President Trump, and what that could mean. It seems like the president has sided with Iran over Israel, and that's a precedent. That's a new precedent. That's a new thing. Let's see here. Is Pope Leo more conservative? Is he more conservative than Francis? Right? And when I say conservative, perhaps I should say traditional. Is he more traditional than Francis? Francis was quite progressive. is Leo more traditional? I was a fan of Benedict. I liked Pope Benedict. I liked him more than his immediate predecessor, and I liked him better than Francis. In fact, Benedict was the pope that reached out to the Eastern Church, the Orthodox Church, and actually offered communion and full participate in the sacraments of the church by Orthodox Christians. Now, there's a problem with this. If you're an Orthodox Christian, you're not supposed to do that, right? But it was an attempt to invite invite conversation. So those policies have remained. Francis didn't change that, and it doesn't seem that Pope Leo the 14th is likely to change it. Also, Joe Rogan has been caught saying some pretty pro resurrection of Christ, and so this is going to be this is sort of interesting. We've got power outages in Europe. Kanye West is still crazy, and we also have we're in the a few days into this Diddy trial. Goodness, we got a lot of stuff to cover today. It's been a minute since we did a show, so sit tight. We'll be right back with another riveting episode of Two Dads React. Let's go. We're back. We're back. This is Two Dads React, and here we go. Here is Tony from God Rules. What's happening, man?
Hey, how you doing? I'm
Did
trying
you
to
find
find my
me?
window. No, I'm missing my window. I don't know where my window is. I'm sorry, man. Just give me a second here. Like, where the hell is my window? I got so many windows open. I can't even find you. It's not this. All right, where did it go? Oh, here it is. I found it. All right, there we go. I have like literally I have like 300 windows open. So probably well maybe not 300, but I have a lot. So
Right.
I got like 4 browser windows, and each one's got like 40 windows and each one open. You know what I mean? It's like that.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, where did I go? So
Please
how you
like
been,
the
man?
video, folks. Like the video. We got 44 watching, only 14 likes. One of the best and most important things that you can do is you can like the video. If you want to spread the message, like the video. Please like the video. All right. So, how's it been, man? It's been a minute.
Was it been a couple months or something?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Like a million things happened since the last time we talked.
Yeah.
World's like gone crazy. Well, actually, I don't know. It's like a weird shifts going on with the world.
Yep.
Some good, some bad. I feel like we're, in the midst of like just a lot of crazy stuff going on at once, you know? Just seems like I mean, honestly, I don't know what to make of some of the stuff going on. You mentioned what did you mention? You mentioned Diddy trial, right? That's one of them. I haven't even talked about that on my channel.
Yeah.
Uh, I've been so busy talking about everything else, so I haven't even got to that.
Yeah, well, it just started like a couple days ago. I've mentioned it on my morning show. Um I addressed the first day, but the thing is that there's no footage, so you can't like view the footage because it's a federal court case, so there's no cameras.
I
You know,
did mention the list. I did. That is one thing I mentioned was the list, and it had a lot of
right?
interesting people on it. Wasn't Kamala on the list? I think she was on the list.
She could be. There's a lot of folks on that
There's a
list.
lot of Mark Wahlberg was on the list. I was shocked to see that. I mean, there's some good people that I wouldn't expect on the list that were on the list. So, um,
I'm not sure
yeah,
that being on the list is necessarily an indication that you've done something bogus.
yeah. Well, what was that list? It was like, was that obviously wasn't an extensive list of people. Is it people that went to the parties or what? I don't even know. I'm assuming that's what it was, but it's not extensive because I know there's a lot of people that went.
Right.
Even Denzel Washington went there for like the short beginning part of it and then just left early because he didn't like what he was seeing or something. I don't know if you knew about that, but I covered that some while ago. He went there and he left early. I guess he didn't stay for the extra stuff at the end.
Yeah, yeah. You
He
gotta
didn't
what
like
is
what he was seeing.
that's right. Yeah,
Of
you
course, a lot
gotta
of these people have left. Like Ellen DeGeneres, she left the country right around the time this happened. You can see Justin Bieber. He's like always drugged out of his mind now, it seems like, probably because of what's going on.
yeah.
You know, I
I
feel
gotta
sorry
tell
for the
you,
guy a little bit. Yeah,
I really feel yeah, I feel bad for that guy. Um
100%, man.
Goodness.
He's a victim, man. I think he's a victim.
Oh, you
Honestly, I mean,
definitely.
too
And
young.
my wife sent me like a video, and it was kind of dramatized and stuff. It was kind of addressing what a lot of the stuff uh that happened to him. And it just makes you, first of all, it makes you know that there's a bunch of folks that don't have big names like he does, that probably endured worse because
Oh
they
yeah.
they
Oh
didn't
yeah.
even have a name to be able to finally get free of that.
Yeah, I
So,
heard some weird thing. I don't know much about it. I just heard one tidbit that someone was using someone's mouth as a urinal or something. I don't know what that was all about. I heard about
oh,
that.
oh yeah, well
Yeah,
in the I think in
it
the
sounded like waterboarding, but with it just sounded crazy because it sounded like she couldn't breathe. So it sounded like waterboarding with like, I mean, what in the hell are they coming up with there, man? That's crazy stuff.
yeah, it's pretty
That's
gross.
crazy.
So it's a
Yeah,
lot of
it's like
stuff.
twisted minds of people have too much money and time on their hands, you know?
Yeah. All right. So here, let's do this. Let's go over here. We're talking about
Right.
let's talk about the Pope first.
Oh yeah, okay. That's a good
Now,
idea.
one thing about the Pope that's interesting
And this story right here is fascinating. Records show
is although we've had an African Pope before. There's been
Oh,
an
was there?
African Pope before, and yeah, we've had African popes before, but we've not had an American Pope, right? And we've not had a Pope that has African American family lineage. Now, this is something that
All
we
right.
don't that hasn't been. I haven't heard anybody talking about this very much. This is a Chicago News affiliate here. Let's check this out. This is ABC Chicago.
the Pope Leo also has, and this story right here is fascinating. Records show that Pope Leo also has black family roots in New Orleans.
Oh, really?
ABC News uncovered U.S. Census records from the early 1900s that shows the first American Pope's family tree. Both of his maternal grandparents identified themselves as black or mulatto in several census documents.
Really?
His two aunts also identified as black. On their marriage license, his grandfather listed his birthplace as Haiti. However, his birth records show he was born in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. The birth records of the Pope's grandmother show she was born in New Orleans. However, in 1920, after the family migrated to Chicago, they marked down their race as white. It appears like so many families fleeing the South at that time, they shifted their racial identity. So many people talking about this online. I mean, it's just fascinating to
didn't know
see
that, man.
his lineage.
Absolutely,
crazy.
and very interesting in terms of his role as a bridge builder between cultures. I think that's to me that's the takeaway here, where he has this history, his family, and he is now in this position, a worldwide position where he's there and can kind of bridge cultural gaps in so many different ways.
Yeah, and just in talking to many black Catholics in the Chicago area, this is a story that certainly resonates with them. So we'll be sure to stay on top of it with this new revelation here. And this story right here.
Yeah, so that's pretty
I didn't know
pretty interesting. Let's see here. I've got a couple other things. We're not going
Did
to.
you hear about his brother being interviewed on ABC News and said that his brother as a pope, the guy that became the pope, he was told by his neighbor when he was a kid that he was going to be the pope? Did you hear about that or no?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so I sent you the clip where it plays it. He's being interviewed, his brother is, and it says that, and you can play that later if you want, that their neighbor told him when he was in first grade he's going to be the first American pope.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I you can play it if you want later, whenever you get a chance. I just put it in
give me
the
a second.
I put it in the
This
little thing there.
Okay, here. Let me play the right one. I got to select the right one. Here it is. Oh, come on. Yeah, see, my phone gets too smart sometimes. All right, here we go. Let's check this out.
No one noticed that the new Pope Leo XIV made Trump a laughingstock with just one sentence. When billowing white smoke billowed from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel, Leo XIV walked out slowly. He made history by becoming the first Pope of the United States, and this result was also very unexpected. Just before the new Pope was elected, Trump posted a photoshopped photo of himself as the Pope on social media, which drew a lot of criticism. Now, Leo XIV has become the first Pope of the United States, but Trump was still too happy too early because he forgot that he and Robert Prevost have long been rivals. On his first day in office, he turned Trump into a complete joke. It is reported that Pope Leo often criticizes Trump and J.D. Vance on social media. In St. Peter's Basilica, Pope Leo XIV said that evil would not prevail, which also reminds people of the fake papal photo of Trump. Although Trump congratulated the new pope shortly after his election, Leo XIV did not respond to it. He is widely regarded as a direct disciple of Pope Francis, so Trump is not
That's
favored
not
by
true,
him.
dude.
What do you
What the
think
hell?
of this?
No, I
I
think
think
that
I
there's
think
some
that's like
propaganda.
made too early. Yeah, that was made too early. That like there's a lot of people who are just assuming he would be like Pope Francis. I was thinking the same thing when I first heard about him. I just assumed he'd be like Pope Francis, but he doesn't seem to be at all. He seems to be a lot better actually. Pope Francis. But
I mean, it's this clearly is produced by one particular political persuasion.
oh, it's
I mean,
funny because his brother's a Trump supporter, which is funny. I don't know about the Pope, but I know his brother is. I think the Pope though has been critical of Trump on immigration and stuff. I've seen that. That's
yeah,
true.
he's been critical on a few things. But okay, here's another one I've got. Let's see here. Let me get the right thing here.
I'm kind of wondering if he's like a dark horse in that he doesn't let people know his opinions purposely, and that maybe maybe he purposely made himself look a certain way so he could become the Pope. And because I don't think he would have got picked if he had certain ideas, you know what I mean? That's what I'm wondering.
It could be, but the Catholic Church has had a history of choosing folks. Like I said, Benedict was pretty, he was pretty traditional. And I liked John Paul, Pope John Paul was
Well,
was pretty
immigration would
traditional.
be a big one. I think immigration, like if you have the right opinion on that, maybe that's like a big thing for him or something. I don't know. That's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know that American policy on immigration is even. I don't even think that would be something that they would be discussing. I don't think they care about that at all. As
Well,
far as
I'm curious because I kind of feel like something went weird with Pope Francis because he's not. I remember reading articles from 2020 saying, or not 2020, when he first got elected, Pope Francis, that there were Jesuits that were freaking out, losing their minds over it because there wasn't supposed to be a Jesuit ever became Pope, and he became a Pope. So some are wondering if there was some sort of, kind of like elite kind of thing going on or whatever, and they picked him. I don't know, but I don't really think it's just a bunch of, well, there's another thing too. They appoint their cardinals, right?
Mhm.
So it's just like when you appoint judges in America, they all sway the way you want them to sway. So if you pick a bunch of cardinals, they're probably going to pick what you want, right? So that's another factor. But
Yeah, I mean, when you get people involved with stuff, you're going to have politics. You're going to have, and then that can be either politics in a benign sense, or it could be bogus politics.
nefarious, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, let's see what we got here.
Mr. Trump, thank you for your congratulations. However, I do not agree with your statement that the new Pope is an American. Although I was born in Chicago, the United States, and lived in the US in my early years, I have been engaged in missionary work around the world, especially in Peru, for a long time. I have long regarded myself as a spiritual servant belonging to all mankind, rather than just representing the United States. The role of the Pope transcends the limitations of nationality and region, and is to guide the hearts of billions of believers around the world and all of humanity, and is committed to spreading love, justice, and peace. The Catholic doctrine calls for caring for the vulnerable and attaching importance to the Earth's ecology, which is also the concept that the Church has always advocated. And I have also expressed different views on some of your opinions and those of Mr. J.D. Vance. Regarding the issue of immigration, we have seen those who have left their hometowns in search of hope for survival. They should not be blocked by indifferent policies. The core of the Catholic doctrine lies in mercy, love, and acceptance. We have the responsibility to care for and assist these vulnerable groups instead of building high walls. I hope that in the future, regardless of which country we are in, we can all be guided by the Catholic doctrine and work together to build a world full of love and
I find that very interesting. Well, I think it's kind of BS because, like, if you go back even like 100 years, you'll find a pope that'll say the exact opposite of what he's saying. So it's just kind of funny when you hear him say that because that's not Catholic doctrine. That's just sort of the standard mindset of today of like, oh, lovey-dovey, like everyone get along, kind of. There's no borders, stuff. That's not legitimate because I think a lot of that comes back to sort of a globalist mindset. I think they want everyone to have that kind of mindset where it's not like you don't have a race, you don't have a culture, you don't got a country, you're just, you know what I mean? That's kind of what they want to have. And I don't think that's legitimate, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that the um, so this is in rest in peace. To the priest that he did my marriage ceremony and officiated my marriage, and he was the priest that in the church that I'm still a part of. He's the reason I reached out to the church, and he talked me through my converting to becoming Orthodox. And one thing I respected about him was I would ask him direct political questions, and he wouldn't give me an answer. Like he wouldn't tell me, well, I think you should vote this way, or I think you should do this, and I'd even ask him like, well, what are you going to do? And he would also resist answering that because he didn't see that as his role. He saw his role is communicating principles, morals. This is what's right and wrong. This is what the church has always done. This is what, that was his purview.
But he's Greek Orthodox, right?
He's, the Orthodox Church of America. But yeah.
Oh, I thought you went to Greek. You go to Orthodox Church of America?
Yeah. Orthodox Church of America. It's in English. So I can understand.
Well, because like my sister, she goes to Russian Orthodox, and
the Russian church is like a cousin church to OCA. Like they share some of the same hierarchs.
The point is they have a Russian Orthodox, they have a Greek Orthodox, they have an American Orthodox, and he's like no borders, blah blah blah, lovey-dovey, like, and pretending as if all the people trying to come over aren't being pulled over by some nefarious reasons. Like, for example, if you look at Ireland and you look at the age demographic of 20 years old, most of the people, half the people in Ireland are actually coming over mass, migration. So only 50% of the 20-year-olds in Ireland are actually born in Ireland, which this is the thing I have an issue with, is that this has been used in sort of weaponized. The whole thing's been weaponized. It's not just some guy trying to come to another country to get somewhere. It's been used and of course, if you look at sort of the demographic, it's not a bunch of women and kids, it's you see what I mean? There's a lot of things like that coming involved as well. And if you look at America, it's a little bit different. I mean, it just depends on where you're looking. They have different demographics coming to each different country, right? So like you'll have Arab in some areas, you'll have this and that area. But my point is that they're not doing it. They're doing mass versions of it in some countries. And the whole thing with the Russian Orthodox Church is it's Russian, right? He's a bishop of Rome or the bishop of Russia or bishop of wherever. And they recognize the country, which seems to be different than this Catholic Pope.
Well, it's a little, I mean, yes and no. It's about jurisdictions, and the jurisdictions are really not about the sort of sovereignty of that sort of country or the borders of that particular country or that city. It's just basically happens to coincide with whatever the where the populations are, and the populations are going to tend to coalesce around countries' borders or whatever, and then languages and customs and everything else is going to tend to be somewhat within a particular range, because you still have to speak the language of the people. You do the liturgy in the language that the people can understand. You're right, and so so there's all of those kinds of things.
So what I was trying to get at, like, for example, Russia, right? You had back in about 100 years ago, you had the Bolshevik Revolution there, right? And what happened was a bunch of Orthodox priests got killed during this revolution. And what I'm saying is there's these outside forces purposely doing nefarious things in various countries. And they stand outside of the country as a globalist, and then they do bad things to these countries.
Yeah.
So my whole point is that when he talks like that, he's talking like a globalist. He doesn't even realize that there are people outside the country that want to do nefarious things to countries. And that's what they do. And they'll even destroy
Yeah.
entire cultures. They'll kill all the Christians like they did in Russia back during the Bolshevik Revolution. That's my point.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is like kind of the whole thing is tricky because in one sense I can see how someone would say, "Hey, okay, I'm not going to disrespect your sovereignty, but should you be doing things that seem to be hurting people or not reaching out to people, not being charitable to folks that need your help?"
Yeah, of
or,
course. I mean, you
know,
need to
that
be a
kind of thing.
missionary. Right. Yeah, I have no problem with him going. Where did he go? Peru, I think it was.
You know.
Yeah, he's a missionary in Peru. I mean,
Well, but in particular,
I
I'm
love
talking
going to
about.
other countries. I love going to other countries. There's a difference between loving to go to other countries and liking the people and trying to destroy their culture. There's a big
No,
difference
no, no.
between the
Well,
two. Yeah.
well, I'm not. Well, of course, I wouldn't advocate for destroying anyone's culture. All I'm
Right.
saying
That's the
is,
point. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's like a fine line between advocating for sort of generosity and people and policies in countries to sort
And
of
abusing kindness too. You know,
yeah.
I mean,
But
look at what's going on in our country. There's people that will abuse your kindness because you're trying to be nice, and then they'll take advantage of it. Right? You'll see that happen a lot.
you'll see that happen, but from a Christian perspective, that's not your responsibility. You're still supposed to be kind.
Well, you don't need to give them stuff. If they're purposely abusing you, you don't need to do anything for them. You can be kind to them,
Well,
but you
I
don't have to
mean,
do stuff
you can
for
do
'em.
the thing. What does it say?
I mean, because people will purposely
it's-
take advantage of that. I mean, like you give something to them and they rob, and then they take the money and rob you or whatever, and then you're like, oh, I'll let them do it again to me. You know, it's just not a good idea to do that.
Well, I mean, there's a biblical principle, and the principle is, don't cast your pearls before swine,
Right?
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
That's what I'm saying.
right,
Yep.
because they're going to turn around and take advantage of you. But the thing is that you have to, what is it, turn the other cheek, right? So you give people an opportunity to offend you. So
Right.
you have to be initially you're generous, and then when they do something that's like, yeah, I'm tight. Yeah, you don't have to keep allowing them to do stuff to you. But if you're
Right.
talking about
Exactly.
folks, but if you're talking about people, in especially with this issue of, the immigration issue, if it is perceived that one place on earth, the cost, I'm sorry, the quality of life is way better than other places, and it seems as though certain policies are being proposed that would block other people that are going to starve to death or are going to whatever it is from entry into that location. I'm not saying that the Catholic Church has the right to tell any country what their policy should be, but as a sort of principle of generosity in the spirit of, hey, I want to take care of people, I can see why the Catholic Church might advocate for policies, no matter what the country is, that would tend to be generous to people that are poor and can't take care of themselves. So, but there's a fine line between that and trying to control and push countries or into doing things. And so that's where I would draw the line.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And like with this Pope, he's speaking about a topic he's not an expert at, which would be politics. And maybe he understands one aspect of being kind and generous, but maybe doesn't understand that there are other people out there who are trying to do things nefarious through tactics, that you wouldn't expect, right? So, like for example, with, again, 100 years ago with the Bolsheviks, they were trying to make it look like a class thing, like, oh, lower class doesn't get to have it, higher classes got everything. But in reality, what it ended up being was there were some elites behind the whole thing, so they could become dictators over that country and destroy it.
That stuff.
That's my point.
That's part of the reason. That's part of the reason why the communist socialist thing is bogus, is because there's always somebody getting rich. It's like,
yeah, the people running it. The people running it, man. They're the ones. So it's like a co-op. It's like a scam co-op where they're pretending like they're trying to help the little guy, but they're really just trying to take your entire culture, destroy your country, and then be able to rule over it at the same time. And that's my point. Like, there's always these nefarious elements that people don't ever think about, that there's someone trying to trick you into thinking certain things, right? That's my whole point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so the whole thing is tricky, and it's got a lot of nuance, a lot of subtlety, and there's a lot of like gremlins in there ready to jump out on you if you don't know what you're doing. So I agree with that. Okay. So Joe Rogan has gotten caught saying some things. Well, not caught. It's his program. He's saying it of his own free will. It wasn't a hot mic. It was during one of his conversations, and it sounds pretty in support of the idea of a resurrection of Jesus. So let's just see what he's talking about.
I'm sticking with Jesus on that one. Like, Jesus makes more sense. The difference between science and religion is that science only asks you for one miracle. I want you to believe in one miracle, the Big Bang.
Yeah.
It's because it really is true. Yes. And it's funny because people would be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin, and for no reason that anybody's adequately explained to me makes sense.
Yeah. No.
Instantaneously became everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't buy that.
I'm sticking with Jesus on that one. Like, Jesus makes more sense. I'm sticking with
Jesus makes more sense. Now, here's something interesting, because my position on this, the whole Big Bang business and the evolution business, the supposed the scientific escape from creation, from there being a God, my whole thing is, even if you grant evolution or you grant the Big Bang, then my question is just going to be, what caused the Big Bang? What caused evolution? And so you still end up in a position where something, and I would call that something God, was actually the force that actually pushed those events to do what they did for us to get to where we are now. Because something does not come out of nothing. That is just that's an impossibility.
If I remember correctly, I believe the Big Bang was actually created by a priest. And this is what a lot of people are not aware of, that it was actually the first initial concept came from a priest. I think he was into the sciences as well. He was not just a priest, but it's just kind of funny because like everyone just went with that, co-opted it, and just took God out of the picture. Like, oh, we don't need God. We just got Big Bang. But I think actually, if you look at the whole thing, I kind of feel like there's more than one miracle for the evolutionists, because whenever I'll notice this once in a while, I'll open up my phone and it'll have like a story, and it'll say like 100 million years ago, this happened. I'm like, how would you know what happened 100 million years ago? You would literally not know that. You were not there. You have no scientific evidence proving anything happened then. It sounds like a miracle to me, just like a simple fantasy that someone made up. And of course, what's also interesting is if you look into some of these scientists early on, like around 100 years ago, a lot of them would just simply reject any sort of evidence that sort of pointed to something in the Bible. If it was in the Bible, automatically dismissed. There was a guy I've talked about on my channel. There's a famous geologist that ended up getting an award for geology when he was like 93, because all of his peers died that were standing against him because they hated the fact that he had found proof of flooding in America. And he had all this evidence of flooding in America, and they simply rejected it because it pointed to the flood. And they're like, we don't believe in the flood, even though there's all these cultures that said there was one in all these history books. We reject it, but we know exactly what happened 100 million years ago. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Right. And then on top of that, there's this one guy named Kent Hovind, and he had this one video I saw where he actually went through all these school textbooks from like the 1980s until, 2010 or something. And he showed how the universe kept growing in age. every 5 or 10 years. And like he showed like how he actually had a graph of how the age got much, much bigger. And like it started off, I think, at 100,000 years. Then it went to like 1,000,000 years and 5,000,000 years. It's like every year the universe gained a million in age or something, right? It's like funny, It's like, this isn't fact. You're just making stuff up and you're teaching it in the classroom. This is even worse than looking at a history book or a religious text that claims something that actually has some actual evidence behind it. You're just making stuff up, right? This is my whole point. So I always looked at science this way. And it's funny to see Joe Rogan say this, because you can find a video from 10 years ago, him saying the exact opposite. He would have Richard Dawkins on, and it would be mocking Christianity 10 years ago. He would mock Christianity, and he would stand on science like it was totally undismissible, totally rock solid. Now he's the exact opposite. I find that really interesting. He's the exact opposite now.
Well, it's interesting. I still wouldn't characterize him as being the exact opposite.
He's a lot opposite.
This statement and
Yeah.
some other conversations, and I've got another conversation that he was involved in too. It at least shows that he's interested in the topic, and he has moved away from being somewhat agnostic and into a sort of, he's still kind of agnostic, but he's like starting to lean in a particular direction. That's what I'm starting to see happen.
He's
But
getting
this
into the Jordan Peterson zone. He's getting in the Jordan Peterson zone. Like, I don't know. I kind of believe it. I don't know if I believe it. Like,
yeah,
eventually-
I think that I think
no,
that
I
the
think
thing about-
Jordan Peterson's a believer now. But I mean, at the first, he was kind of like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
just kind of wishy-washy a little bit.
So here's the thing with Jordan Peterson and what's her name, Candace Owens, went after him. I did a show on this. I thought she was being
The whole
was
thing
being-
on Joe Rogan. I think it was on Joe Rogan, right?
no.
Was that
no.
the Israel thing or no?
No.
Okay.
I did a show, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, where Candace Owens was basically going in on Jordan Peterson and basically saying that he's doesn't do what it is that he says he's telling other people to do, and she was kind of pot-shotting him and I think doing some sort of stuff that was not particularly. It was a lot of sort of disingenuous, kind of unfair kind of stuff that she was doing, which I think is below her, because I tend to respect her sort of ability to research things, but she's basically trying to side with anti-intellectuals over someone like him, who is he's an intellectual, he's an academic, and he can back up the things that he's saying with actual research. The problem with siding with anti-intellectuals over someone like a Jordan Peterson, when you yourself are an intellectual. Candace Owens is an intellectual. That's what she does. She uses information, research, data. She uses different things to draw certain kinds of conclusions. Now, she's not as knowledgeable as Jordan Peterson. She's not as credentialed as a lot of folks, and you may disagree with what it is that she concludes. But that is what she's doing, and I just thought it was a bad look for her to be basically cutting her own feet out from under her, siding with folks that were kind of coming after Jordan Peterson for with some kind of, I thought, disingenuous arguments. But one of the things that she kept going in.
What were they talking about?
Well, one of the things that they were going into, or that she went into, is she was talking about how, how am I supposed to listen to, this person, and we don't even know if he's a believer. He won't even say if he's a Christian or not.
Well,
It's
I think he's
simple.
already
Just say
said.
it.
He said he's a Christian. I think he said it now, but at first, like maybe 10 years ago, he was kind of wishy-washy. But that was kind of what I was joking about.
I
think it's apples and oranges, though. These two shouldn't be really. They're kind of like, they got their own thing. She's got her thing. He's got his thing.
she
They're both good at what they do. I don't agree with them on everything, but they got their thing. You know what I mean?
Let me
And
suggest
maybe they shouldn't fight.
let me suggest in orders of magnitude, he far surpasses anything that she's doing in the intellectual sphere. I mean,
Well, you're talking. He's a psychologist, right?
Well, he's a psychologist, but he is perhaps, at least in the modern era, one of the most important thought leaders. I mean, it's just and there's no doubt about that.
Well, he's a smart guy, and he has a lot of good stuff to say in certain realms, but I think he's wrong in a few realms.
Well,
he's a smart guy, though.
No. Well, honestly, I don't care if he's smart or not. I'm saying that he is a thought leader. Many of the thoughts that he's put out in the space.
He's put some good stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sure. I don't agree with him on everything. There's plenty of things I don't agree with.
Some of the crowd likes Candace, though. I can tell. Some of the crowd likes Candace here. Yeah, I mean, she has good stuff too. I think a lot of people really get behind her. I noticed, like my researcher, not him, but his mother is like a diehard Candace Owens, and she used to not want to listen to her at all. So my researcher's mother is like, oh, I'll listen to her every day now. And so I could tell you, crowd, some people love Candace. So she has good stuff. She comes out with good stuff and everything, and a lot of people follow her. I think it's because a lot of people relate to what she's getting at and some of the problems in society. And so a lot of people get very attached and have a lot of whatever you want to call it behind it.
So here's the issue. She is tapping into a lot of people being tired of an elite class attempting to dictate to the common man what it is that they should think and how they should vote and how they should do this and that. And that's cool. That's fine. But if you do that in such a way as to side with people that present arguments that are intentionally anti-intellectual, what you're going to be left with is nothing. You're basically destroying everything, including the rational basis by which to even have a discussion. It doesn't make.
You know what you like? Did you know that Jordan Peterson, you and I all have the same personality type?
Well, he is actually. I'm INTP. I think he's an.
I'm INTP. He's an INTP also. But Candace is an EN something, isn't she? Candace Owens.
I don't know if she's an EN. I'd be surprised if she was EN. Because she comes across as an introvert to me.
What is an MBTI? I don't know what that turns into in this realm. I don't know the MBTI, what that means. She's an MBTI, whatever that is. I don't know what that translates into. But I mean, she's a mover.
What is that system? What is that system called?
Union Analytical Psychology, I think.
No. The system, with the INTP. What does that come from? Briggs. What is it? Briggs and what?
No, it's from Carl Jung, right?
No. The Briggs. Those letters. What is the system? Somebody in the chat probably knows this.
Union. It's based off Carl Jung's last name. Union Analytical Psychology, I think, is what it's called.
No, that's not what I'm talking. That's not what I'm talking about. It's the what is it?
Theory of psychological types identified 8 primary personality types.
Myers-Briggs. It's Myers-Briggs.
Oh, the MBTI or whatever, or however you say it.
So
she's. I mean, like for instance, you got Andrew Tate. He's an ENTP, I think. And what they do is they feel the pulse of society, and then they just try to mirror it, and then they try to kind of give a vent, an outlet for that. INTP is more like you and I, where we analyze stuff. We're not trying to be like movers and shakers and trying to, move society. And that's why people like Andrew Tate, I think Candace also are like really big movers and shakers, and a lot of people follow them and they get really passionate behind it, even if they don't fully make sense always. And that's not the point. So the point is they know something's wrong. They kind of got it right. They're figuring out and they're trying to get it all perfect and deliver it, but sometimes they don't do it right. And so what you're talking about is INTP. They're more articulate. They focus. They try to really figure things out, but they're not as big of a mover and shaker usually. So that's why you get more passion behind someone like, I think, Candace and someone like Tate, is because it's all about emotion, something wrong in society, and they're trying to get behind it.
Yeah. So using the Myers-Briggs letters, so we're INTP. She's an ESTJ.
So she's an E. I knew she was an E.
Yeah.
So she is an ES. So she's all feeling. S is a sensor, right? ESTJ. And TJs tend to really line up all the facts and kind of figure stuff out like that. So it makes sense. She's kind of a mover, just like an ENTP would be a mover. And ENTP is able to see more of a bird's eye view and kind of figure out where the pieces are quicker. INTJs are like more just put all the facts in a row, and it's kind of more in the details. So, but I'm just saying that's why.
Because I thought that Jordan was an INTJ. I thought his last letter was a J, but I know that his first three letters were INT.
At any rate, that's I'm just saying. That's why people get so passionate behind Candace. That's why I saw the numbers going down. Like, people love Candace. They really do. They get behind her like crazy. I follow her. I don't really follow her, but I see sometimes she gets a story and it's like big, and I'll follow that. Like when she gets on a story I like, and I'll see what she's saying, and I'll cover it a little bit, but I don't follow her daily. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't follow Jordan daily either. Once in a while, he'll have a really good one.
I think both of them have issues. There are some issues that I take with both.
Yeah.
And they were part of the same organization, which I thought was a good pairing, because she is a lot different than he is, but they're both strong in a particular way.
It's fascinating because it's all about what everyone's talking about now. And that's what I wanted to talk about in this video too, is about Trump going to Saudi Arabia, apparently having a falling out with Netanyahu. And I feel like Netanyahu played his cards too hard and just like tried to go in too hard, thinking he'd just get Trump to do whatever he wanted. And it didn't work out too well for him because he wanted to go with war with Iran. And now apparently Trump is now even working with the Syrian president. The Syrian president wants to build him a tower, another Trump tower in Damascus or something. And he just took away all the, whatever you call it. They're allowed to trade now with America. Syria is. I forgot what they call it.
So check this out. I've got a video that addresses that issue you're talking about right now. Let's see here.
But I mean, that comes back to the Daily Wire. You're talking about Candace going from there, and that comes back to Ben Shapiro being, obviously Jewish. And this whole topic is big now. Everyone's talking about it, right?
Right.
So go ahead.
All right, so check this out.
President Donald Trump says he will remove U.S. sanctions on Syria
in
order to give them a chance at greatness.
For context, since 2011, the U.S. has put all kinds of restrictions on Syria, mainly to punish the regime led by Bashar al-Assad for committing human rights abuses against his people. Now, after the regime fell last year, the new government has been trying to rebuild the country and rescue its economy. But that's been really difficult, partly because Syria has been decimated by war, but also because of international sanctions. The U.S.'s sanctions were considered the harshest and targeted things like Syria's oil and gas industry and its banks. They also banned entities in the U.S. from doing business with the Assad regime. So what will lifting those sanctions mean? Listen to my colleague Imran Khan reporting from the Syrian capital.
There is no international investment to speak of. They can't get money out of the country. They can't get money into the country. So joining the SWIFT system is going to be crucial.
By the way, SWIFT is the system most banks use to send money around the world.
Also now a time for Syria to really try and sell itself on the international market. Now that international companies will be allowed to come in, and that will mean very basic level jobs for people. It will mean money in the economy and relief for hyper inflation.
Now, Donald Trump and Syria's leader Ahmed al-Sharaa are set to meet on Wednesday for the first time. Trump signaled it might just be a hello, but there's no doubt this is a huge step in the relationship between these two countries. And for Syria, it could signal major, major change.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because like you're seeing, so Trump was totally all in following Netanyahu. He's like pulling his chair out for him and stuff. And Netanyahu, obviously thought maybe, well, maybe I can do whatever I want. He wanted to start a war with Iran, which has, NUKES. He's got the big ones, right? And our president obviously is looking at that like, well, that could cause some serious problems in the world. It could be world, war or something. So I just think it's really interesting that you're now seeing this huge shift in society, and you're seeing them working with Muslim countries now, right? Like Syria. And so I think there's some weird stuff going on right now. I think there's a lot of big shakeups going on. You see the tariffs going on. Trump made some really good deals. And I don't know if you've talked about this or not. UK and China deal are insanely good for America. And a lot of people that I've been watching online have been talking and don't know what they're talking about. I've seen these investors saying, oh, these tariffs are horrible. They're actually awesome. You're going to see a ton of jobs come back to America in the next year or two. The fact that we now can sell into China and into the UK at 10% tariff means that we will be able to make a lot more stuff here and sell it to that country. For example, Ford. Ford now will be able to sell twice as many cars, or maybe 3 times as many cars, because they can now sell into China and the UK. They couldn't before because there was these ridiculous tariffs. Only rich people could buy the Ford or, Chrysler or something, Stellantis now. Before, only people that were rich could buy those cars. Now everyone can buy those cars. So now we have opened up these markets so we can actually sell into China, sell into all these countries, and it's going to make all these jobs come back to America. And the fact he's using these tariffs also to force people to bring jobs back to America, I think you're going to see a lot of really good jobs coming in the next year or two. It's going to be insane. A lot of manufacturing jobs. And this will bring it back to like how it was in the 1970s, where we had a lot of the wealth in the middle class. So I think this is going to build the middle class, which will be blue collar work in a sense, mostly. But some of it will be AI and other things as well. But you got something up there. This guy's going right now too. What's his name? What is this guy's name again? I forgot his name. The guy on the screen.
Wait a minute. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't get his name.
Wes Huff. Wes Huff. He's been going around. He was just on. I can't remember what the show's called. He wasn't just on Joe Rogan. He was on a number of shows recently. The one with the tall guy with a mustache. He's thin. I can't remember his name. Whatever. He's on some show recently. He's on some interview. I can't remember for some reason the name of it. Yeah, his name's Wes.
Maybe somebody in the chat knows his name. All right, so let's check this out.
The Gospels are written in the lifetime of the eyewitnesses, and they're written in this period of time where you have groups of individuals who could have fact-checked those things. So
how do you fact-check someone coming back from the dead?
Well,
how many people saw his body, right?
Well, Paul says that 400 people saw him all at once.
400 people saw the crucifixion?
No, saw the resurrected Jesus. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 15, Paul says that Jesus appeared to the disciples, and then he appeared to 400 people all at once. I mean, if we read the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of Luke and Acts, so same author wrote these both documents, he says that Jesus was walking around teaching them for 40 days after he was resurrected from the dead. And so these are written within a time period when you have people who would have seen Jesus's ministry, who were there, say at something like the feeding of the 5,000, who could have been able to verify or debunk some of these things that are being said.
That's the argument I made in college. That's a really good argument. See, it was modern day. It was in that day. All these claims were being made in these books. Anybody could have debunked it. And guess what they did? The Roman secularists or pagans, they didn't argue that he didn't raise from the dead. They argued in other ways. They didn't actually argue. And so it's kind of interesting the way they argued. And that kind of goes back to that book, Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell, but the kind of argument he's using there.
Yeah. I want to double back to I started making this argument about even if you grant, the Big Bang or evolution, you still have to have a cause. And
right.
I'll double back to that after we play this. Here we go.
Joe Rogan gives undeniable truth that.
I was just going to say that the show that the guy was on, Wes Huff, was on Flagrant, and also he is on Piers Morgan. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
Joe Rogan gives undeniable truth that Jesus exists. Watch this.
Now, this is fascinating. What if I told you that there is now proof that Jesus lived? The way this ends is just shocking.
Now, the thing that's crazy is that was never really in dispute. You got Cornelius Tacitus, you got Flavius Josephus. These are secular historians. They talk about Jesus. But you
gotta understand though, Joe Rogan hung out with all those idiot, or should I call him idiot, retard, whatever you want to call them, atheists like Richard Dawkins, and there's a lot of them on YouTube back 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I think it was 15. Amazing atheists saying that, well, did Jesus exist? Like they were just making the dumbest argument back then.
Well, and that's interesting.
And they were putting it on the front page of YouTube when I first got on YouTube in 2010. Amazing Atheist was on the front page of YouTube. They were promoting that garbage back then.
Yeah, William Lane Craig, he talked about this, the Jesus myth. There's a so-called scholar that has been peddling the Jesus myth.
Richard Carrier. Yeah, that's the so-called scholar. Go ahead.
And the thing about it is, that's not the strategy that folks have really tried to use. That's a new attempt. That is like a late breaking attempt to try to not have to address issues, because the thing is that it doesn't make any sense, because unless you can think of something else that caused the calendars to change, that created this huge movement, and unless you can think of something else that could have done that, it's just simpler to just believe that Jesus rose from the dead. I mean, because it's just
it's worse than a conspiracy theory that has no bearing at all. It's the worst, because if you say Jesus didn't exist, you might as well say anybody written in history ever didn't exist, because he had more evidence than anybody else. You could just literally say no one existed. It's all made up. I mean, basically that's what they're doing. It's just like they're making up stuff. Like, yeah, I can say, yeah, we were just born yesterday on this planet. We've had all our thoughts implanted in our head, and we thought we've been living for 49 years, and no, it's all fake. I mean, I can make up stupid conspiracy theories too, just like they do. I mean, it doesn't mean it's true. Yeah. So, I mean, it's dumb. I mean, it is dumb if you think about it. I mean, it would make more sense for them to argue against the resurrection than it would be to argue he never existed. Right. And even though that's a bad argument too, but
neither are it's insurmountable, the evidence that you'd have to be able to it's not possible. I mean, how are you going to disprove that?
Come back to the personality type. So you remember Candace Owens, what she said? You said she was an ESTJ. Is that what you said she was?
Hold up here. Yeah.
Yes, ESTJ, I think it was.
Yes, ESTJ. Yep.
So like with these atheists, what was so amazing about it? You see Joe Rogan there. He's now questioning science. He's believing more in the resurrection than he does actually the Big Bang, which is kind of ironic. Like I said, he used to be the exact opposite. So back in the old days, everyone just trusts the science. You remember back in 2020? I think that 2020, when they told everybody to trust the science, is when they debunked science. They literally debunked themselves. They're like, trust the science. Get the thing in your arm. Trust the science. And then everybody's like, wait a second. Maybe we shouldn't trust the science. like maybe science is bullshit. Like what's going on here? So now everyone's like, is science really true? Well, they're telling us everything's true, but then they lie to us. These scientists actually lied to us.
So
you know what I mean? So this is what happened, and everyone knows like
danger.
Maybe this science ain't true.
So this is kind of like what I was talking about with Candace. You have to be careful with this, because science is not the problem. Science is not the problem.
That's my point. Yeah, it's the feelings. All these people get in a culture, in a group, and they're like, I believe this, and it's true, but they don't. If they're not really scientific, like you're saying, then they will have a lot of assumptions that are not true, right? Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, I mean, so science is not the problem, and science actually was, facilitated by a lot of developments in science were facilitated by the Catholic Church.
Most of society is not scientific minded. They're not they're not NTs. Most, particularly in America, most are not NTs. You go to Japan, okay, you'll have a lot of NTs. You go to like, you know what I mean? Like if you go to maybe South Korea, a lot of NTs. And then you can look at their society and you see them building all this stuff, technology everywhere, right? You come to America, you see a lot of that too, but you see a little bit less. So what happens is these people are not NTs, they're not scientific minded, and then they're pretending to be, and they think they are, but they're all emotional and they're following whatever they're following. And that's what happened to all these atheists. And they just believed whatever they were told by the amazing atheist, because he said, oh, Jesus never existed. And they just believed it because they thought it was scientific, but they weren't even using science themselves. You see what I mean? It was all emotion.
And if we talk about, I might as well say it now, and then we can move on. If you talk about evolution too, I think a lot of folks don't recognize that there's different kinds of evolution. There's microevolution, there's macroevolution, right? So I don't have an issue with microevolution.
Me neither.
Microevolution accounts for the reason that you and I have different skin color.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so I don't have an issue with that. There's aspects of macroevolution, maybe, but probably not. But
they take the microevolution evidence and then they say that's proof of macro, which is BS, I think, basically.
Right. So there's an issue. You have to have a leap. You have to have an event that creates a leap in development.
Right.
And you have to have you have to have a bunch of those. The chance of those events happening that causes that particular mutation, that particular advancement that quickly is like, it's a very small percentage chance that would happen once, let alone a bunch of times in a row. Okay.
I read a book about like this. It's like worse than being struck by lightning. I mean, it's like impossible. Like there's more atoms in the universe than the possibility of this occurring. You know, it's like one of those things. You know.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So I have an issue with that. But even if you say, hey, the science shows that this aspect of evolution or this or that, and that sort of can explain, you know, why you don't need a literal creation event, you know, like the Garden of Eden or something, or like the account in Genesis or whatever they want to say. And I say, okay, well, first of all, have you heard of the gap theory? So gap theory means you don't know how long each day was, and the account in Genesis is not intended to be literal; it's intended to be metaphorical, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you don't know how long a day is. Things had to arise. It describes some of the things that would need to happen, but it doesn't really say how that stuff happened. And if you subscribe or prescribe to the if you subscribe to the gap theory, then a day could be 1,000,000 years. It could be 10 million years. It could be whatever the number of years is.
You can even use 1,000. It says one day is 1,000 years in Scripture, and you see that in the apocryphal text. If you go to the life of Adam and Eve, some of these pseudepigraphical texts, they say it was like 1,000 years. Each one of these days, it says that in this day you shall die. I think, like when it says to Adam, in this day you shall die, it says in the life of Adam and Eve that's why he didn't live to 1,000.
Okay,
so I'm not saying that it was 1,000 years for each one, but it could have been.
So the reason that I don't say 1,000, and it could have been, right? But the reason
we don't know how long they were in the garden either. We don't know how long they were in the garden.
That's
they
right.
Might have been there for 5,000 years. We don't know.
That's right. They could have been there for a long time. That's right. But my point is, I don't I don't say the 1,000 years thing, because then somebody's going to jump in and say, hey, but we carbon dating and we have
the carbon
fossils.
dating.
We have these fossils that are 1 billion years old or whatever. this kind of stuff. So rather than even having that discussion, rather than even having that argument or engaging that, and say, look, you can have that if you want, you still are stuck with the same thing. All you did was backed up a couple steps, but now guess what? You still have to tell me what caused that.
Right. But you know what they're doing with that whole thing? They're talking about the half-life of radiocarbon dating. And what they do is they assume what the carbon level was back at a certain time. They do that with uranium dating, all these different datings. They have an assumption of what it was at the first. But if you believe in a flood, the carbon content in the atmosphere would have been different if there was a flood, which of course, again, a lot of these scientists would automatically reject any sort of evidence pointing to a flood. Remember I mentioned that earlier. So they automatically had the assumption there was no flood, that everything has been the same since the creation, just like it says in that one verse in the New Testament, where the scoffers in the end times, everything's been the same since the creation or since the beginning. So they assumed that the carbon was the same levels in the beginning as they are now, which is not. That's a false assumption. So there's a lot of these false assumptions they make, and so they have no idea what they're talking about. Basically,
even if you can't say for sure that it's a false assumption, you can say that they can't prove it.
So we don't know how long we've been around either. I mean, we don't know the amount of years, but
yeah. So maybe you can't say, well, you're what it is that you're assuming is false. I mean, you can say, rather than saying that, you could just say, how do you know that it was that? So you're just assuming whatever it is to be the case. Now, granted, and I don't know a whole lot about carbon dating. That's not something that I spent a lot of time studying, but it's not necessary. It's not necessary because, again, you can grant all of that. You can say, okay, carbon dating, okay, billion years old dinosaur bones, whatever. You can do whatever you want to do. That's fine. Hey, I'll give it to you. You still have to show where that came from. And I also will give you the Big Bang, because I actually think that the Big Bang is compatible with the creation story. And
I'll mention really quick. Yeah, go ahead, man. I want to say it after you're done.
Yeah, and I think it also lines up with the fact that we know that the universe is expanding. It's actually getting bigger. So if the universe is all that there is, which is what the atheist has to, that's what they're stuck with. If the universe is all that there is, then what is the universe expanding into?
That's a good question right there.
So it can't be. So there's multiple ways to address these arguments that they present.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They think that they got you stuck because they have science, but you can just use science to show them that, well, no, not really.
Exactly. I mean, carbon dating only goes back 50 to 60,000 years. After that, and that's assuming that we know the levels of carbon and the assumptions correct, which I don't think they're correct on because they don't believe in a flood. But you only can go 50, 60,000 years back with it. Then what they do is they use the geologic column where they see these layers of Earth. And what's funny about it is it could have been localized hydrologic sorting that caused it to be the way it is, because there's different specific weights for each material. And if there was a flood, it would have made the dirt with different weights at different levels. And that's why you have different types of rock and dirt at different levels, which makes no sense. If it was really like they're claiming, uniformitarianism, you would have had not this different rocks at each level. It would have been very harmonized, and it's not that way. So there's a lot of issues with their arguments. I've covered them on videos because I used to study this stuff a lot in the old days. I don't study it anymore, but I remember I kind of have it sort of memorized, some of the stuff. And it's funny looking into it because, of course, back then we were arguing with atheists. I used to talk about it 15 years ago, 10 years ago on YouTube. But now atheists are no longer around. Nobody, I mean, even Richard Dawkins calls himself a cultural Christian now because he's like, I don't like how there's no churches anymore. Why ain't there any Christmas? What did I do? You screwed up society, Richard Dawkins. That's what happened. You made them all atheists. Now they don't believe in God. Now a bunch of Muslims came into your country. It's your fault, dude. You know, like he doesn't want to admit his own fault. So he's like, I'm a cultural Christian now. He's a cultural Christian now. The atheist that converted everybody's now a cultural Christian. So,
All right.
I just think it's funny, man.
All right, let's keep going. Here we go.
Joe Rogan gives undeniable truth that Jesus exists. Watch this.
Now, this is fascinating. What if I told you that there is now proof that Jesus lived? The way this ends is just shocking. Okay, so back in 1982, there's this guy, Ron Wyatt. He's digging around in Jerusalem, and he hits the jackpot finding the Ark of the Covenant just chilling 20 feet under where Jesus was crucified.
That's not even the crazy part.
The lid of this ark, it's cracked in half, and there's this strange dark stuff that had leaked into it. Wyatt, he's curious, so he scoops some of it up and sends it off to a lab in Israel. The lab tests this stuff and turns out it's blood, but not just any blood. This blood's got only 24 chromosomes, all from the mom, no dad. So we're talking about a kid born from just a mother.
Jesus is real, and if you want to accept him in your life...
Oh, no.
I actually covered this some years ago. It's good stuff, though, yeah. I didn't know Joe Rogan knew. I didn't know Joe Rogan talked about this. That's funny, man.
Yeah. All right.
He must have a lot of he must have a lot of Christians around him talking to him all the time.
All right, let's keep going here. I've got a couple more things. I want to cover the power outage stuff and the court case.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see here. Let's do let's go back to this first. Where am I at? Okay, yeah. Hold up here. There it is right there. So check this out.
Breaking news, guys. Trump is turning away from Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu. As President Donald Trump claims, he doesn't need the permission of Israel or Prime Minister Netanyahu to have an agreement with Iran. This, as President Donald Trump has allowed Iran to keep her nuclear facilities but forbids her from enriching uranium and producing a nuclear weapon. What a change of event. This is rather surprising and shocking to the entire world, as all U.S. representative and executive, like the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the most hardliners of all, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, have all suddenly changed position in relation to the Iranian nuclear facilities. They want Iran to keep their nuclear facilities, but they won't produce a nuclear weapon. This, as President Donald Trump refused to even visit Israel during his tour or in the Middle East. This is surprising. Let me tell you something, guys. Don't be fooled. Whatever the United States is doing in the Middle East is all in the name of Israel. The Abraham Accord is for UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar to recognize the state of Israel. All those companies, CEOs who accompanied President Donald Trump to the Middle East to sign $1 trillion agreement with these Middle Eastern nations are all Israeli-affiliated companies and CEOs. So don't be fooled. These people are the best strategists the world has ever known. When they are doing something on the right hand, be prepared for the consequences on the left hand. It's obvious something is in preparation. That is why all these tensions between the US and Israel, Trump and Netanyahu, is a scheme to divert us from what is truly coming. And I know Iran is not stupid, because they know exactly what is happening. That's why the Iranian general has warned Israel of a 600 ballistic missile attack if the dare threatens her sovereignty. Something is in preparation, guys.
Okay.
I kind of agree with him.
Yeah.
I think it's a big deal. I think it's a lot bigger than people realize, because usually America is always aligned with Israel, and it's because they have a lot of influence in our country. And I think what happened was, I think Bibi Netanyahu's bit off more than he can chew. He just assumed Trump will do whatever he wants. And Trump's like, no, I'm not going to, which is funny. It's what I expected from him. I expect this from Trump. This is why they don't like him, is because he does what he wants to do. And he's like, no, I'm going to put America, of course, first over your country, which I don't think they like that message. So that's why now you're seeing Trump going across to Saudi Arabia and making deals. He's working with the Syrian president now, which is kind of funny because they had sanctions like you played earlier. So I think he's right. There could be something big coming, because you would think there's got to be some repercussions for what, kind of turning a little bit, dividing a little bit from Israel. There's probably going to be some repercussions for this. They're going to, I don't know what, we'll see what happens, but I don't think this is small. I think this is big. What do you think, man?
I think it's big, but let's see what's coming. I still don't know if any of this stuff is going to have the effect that he claimed that it would have, or that they were pushing for prior to the election. I think a lot of stuff has not gone the way that was expected, that it was expected to go, and a lot of people have been sort of disappointed by the sort of at least the temporary impact of these tariffs. And
of course,
a lot of people are losing their jobs and stuff. No. I'm not talking. But I don't listen to the liberal media.
This is like the Jordan Peterson thing you were talking about earlier. So the whole issue is a lot of people just simply don't understand what's going on. They don't know business. And it's amazing because people in my own realm, I have a business channel. I'm looking at these investors. I saw a guy who's like a super smart dude. He's an Apple repairman guy. His name's Louis Rossman here on YouTube. He had a video with like 20 reasons why these tariffs aren't going to work. And I'm like, bro, I know you're a smart dude. Why can't you understand this? It's because he's not a businessman. I mean, he owns a business, but he's not business minded outside of his own business. And I could tell this is going to work, and it is working. The only problem is it is a little risky what he's doing, but so far it's turning out really good. It's turning out better than I expected, actually. But the thing is you got the media always talking against him, so everyone's clueless. I bet you it's going to turn out pretty good, I'm guessing, although the Fed is working against him. And the Fed, there's a little bit of an issue there, but I think it's going to work.
I think you have to destroy a lot of things and stay really on course for a long time before you're going to see any actual benefit. That's what I think.
Oh no, I think this is going to be 1 or 2 years. You're going to see it. Obviously, people want benefit this minute, but it ain't going to happen, of course. I think it'll take a year or two. That's my guess. We'll see if I'm right.
It's going to take longer than a year or two. I think it would. I think that it'll be pretty quick. Well, I think because
it could take more than a year or two. You're right. I mean, they have to build the facilities. They got to hire people. That stuff takes time. It could take 2 years.
I'm saying that we've gotten used to, the world has gotten used to a certain way that things operate for a long time. And so it's going to take, I think, a lot of time to reset whatever those expectations are. And unfortunately, although the wealthy, they experience this like it's not a big deal, and upper middle class experience this like it's not the best, but I can weather the storm. Those that are middle class and those that are in poverty, they're barely holding on to the edge.
Of course.
So this thing is raging all kinds of havoc on, I think, most of the sort of paycheck to paycheck Americans, which is most.
Yeah, but it was already screwed. Okay, so it happened about, I saw the graph. It happened about a year and a half ago, where inflation went too high and people's paychecks started going. Did you know paychecks are going down in America? Yep. They're literally going down while the inflation was going up. Now, actually, inflation's actually went down now. I've shown the graph on some of my recent videos. Inflation's down, but people are still broke, and they're actually losing wages more. So the whole reason this is happening is because they gutted the middle class. The middle class is gone because back in the 70s, we had manufacturing here. So what he's actually doing is a solution. It's actually a very good solution. And from what I can tell, it's working. The only problem is people are already broke and they don't want to wait it out. I mean, who would want to wait it out? You're already broke. You can't wait it out. That's the point.
Well, you said they don't want to wait it out. They can't wait it out.
Who would want? Nobody wants to wait out problems.
No,
Right,
no.
exactly.
Well, listen to what I'm saying. You said that they don't want to wait it out. I'm saying they can't wait it out because if
that's
you're
what I mean.
broke,
Yeah.
you don't have any money. So now, how are you going to eat?
So what I think he's going to do,
that's the problem.
So I think in the meantime, what's probably going to happen in the next couple months is he's probably going to send out one of these checks. You know, the whole thing with Doge and cutting out all this government waste. I'm guessing there's probably going to, because people are going to be sick of waiting eventually, and you're already saying people are already sick of waiting. I think the checks are probably going to eventually come once it gets to a peak complaints. You know what I mean? And then that way it keeps people at least satisfied for the time being, waiting for this to happen. You know, that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I think he's going to give out checks in a couple months. That's my guess.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see if it happens though.
Let's see this. Here we go.
We're not planning on stopping in Israel.
I think the message is clear. No more free lunches for Israel in the United States, in Washington. It's an end of an era. Trump #2 is very different from Trump 1 in his first term. I think that he realized that Netanyahu is bluffing, that he doesn't mean business. What Trump wants is an economic deal with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and he wants to end the war. He believes that war is not good for business, and he is first of all a businessman, and that Netanyahu has nothing to offer him. So the message is that Israel will have to pay in diplomatic currency, hard currency, to get out of Gaza, to complete the deal that Trump started in his first term, that normalization with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, is right there, waiting for Israel, and that the Israeli government will have to make a decision. What are their priorities? Is there the priority #1 is to perpetuate the war and the conflict with the Palestinians, or to grab the opportunities that President Trump is putting on the table? I think that what Netanyahu wants is to make sure to perpetuate the war and find a way out of his trial, to be there forever. Otherwise, he can end up in jail. So it's his interest vis-a-vis Trump's interest. I don't see a point that both of them can meet. The interest of Trump are 180 degrees far from Netanyahu's interest. Netanyahu wants to survive. What Trump wants is business, and America first, and it's not Israel first. For Netanyahu, this is a lose-lose game. He didn't give the permission to the United States to negotiate with Hamas, and what we see now is that Trump doesn't need his permission to do anything, to talk to Iran, Hamas, to negotiate with Lebanon. Netanyahu lost his veto power over the United States. Trump is not very emotional about other countries, but he is not going to give Israel a free ride to kill more Palestinians and to avoid the deal to get back our own hostages. He showed the Israeli public that what Netanyahu can do, he can do much better. He can bring back hostages, what Netanyahu is declining to do. And this is a clear message to the Israelis that actually Trump is a real friend of Israel, and that he doesn't take no for an answer from Bibi Netanyahu.
Disclaimer.
All right. So
I was going to mention that. I was thinking it reminds me of two things. It reminds me of a story from the Bible, King Solomon's son Rehoboam, saying, the people were like, hey, can you cut us some slack on the work here? Your dad was a little bit hard on us. And he's like, he went to his advisors, and his advisors were his friends, not his father's advisors, but his close friends. He ignored his father's advisors, who said, yeah, you should give in, lower it a little bit, kind of make a deal. And they're like, and his friends were like, no, I'm twice as hard as my dad. So I'm thinking kind of like with Netanyahu, he seems to be a person who thinks he could have went farther with what he wanted. He wanted to essentially own all of the area. He wants Gaza, of course, for himself, obviously. And he's not going to get what he wants, right? Because he's went too far. And it reminds me of also 2021 with the globalists, where they're trying to get all the banks in the entire world everywhere. And they're trying to punish Russia, saying, hey, you're not doing what we want. So they cut off Russia on the SWIFTing bank system and everything. And what ended up happening is, what did Russia do? Oh, they went and made BRICS, and BRICS got bigger. All these nations joined BRICS, and it basically backfired. So basically, like Rehoboam, it backfired on him, split the kingdom. I think with Israel, they're going too far, trying to get what they want, Netanyahu wants, and it's too much, and it's not going to work. So it also reminds me of the story of Esther, where you had Mordecai and you had Haman. Haman was like trying to condemn Israel, sort of and tried to go too far with the king, and it ended up backfiring. So all the stuff they're doing is backfiring, and I think that's what's going on with Netanyahu. Is he went too far, and now he can't go back. It's too late now. Just like it is too late with Russia. Russia's never going to come back to the table with the SWIFT banking system. Never going to join the West again. They don't see their own end, their own destruction in front of them. You see what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
What do you think, man?
Yep, that makes sense. All right, let's see. Let's talk about this power outage.
There's been a blackout across much of Spain, Portugal, and parts of France. So what's happened and why? Spain's Prime Minister has said there's no conclusive information on a cause so far. A cyber attack appears to have been ruled out, whereas Portugal's grid operator blames a phenomenon called induced atmospheric vibration affecting high voltage power lines in Spain. However, there's little evidence so far of extremes in temperature, winds, or geomagnetic storms that can fry power grids. At around 12:15 Spanish time, something did go badly wrong, however. Around half the power grid on the Iberian Peninsula seems to have gone instantly offline. An outage in one or more parts of a power network causes a sudden imbalance in supply and demand. In order to protect infrastructure, either power plants shut down or customers are disconnected. If it happens faster than grid operators can rebalance the grid, outages can spread as automatic circuit breakers trip like dominoes. While grids can fail instantly, they can take far longer to switch back on. With an outage of this scale, it requires parts of the grid to be switched back on step by step, balancing supply and demand. And that process can take many hours or even days.
Okay, and I got one more on the power outages. Let's play that one. Let's see here.
Are you paying attention yet? This is starting to get crazy. Numerous countries in Europe are dealing with major power outages. So the two places that are majorly affected by these power outages are Spain and Portugal. Take a look at this satellite image. You can imagine how bad it must be there for them. Trains stopping in their tracks, traffic lights not working, no access to ATMs, gas, stores have no power. Their cell service is even affected. Can you imagine being in the dark, no power, no cell service? Their internet service is also down. And to make matters even worse, they don't even know how this even happened. So you must say to yourself, if that can happen.
What do you think? How do you think it happened?
Did you know my studies in college were power plant technology? That was one of my focuses as a mechanical engineer. It's because they went net zero and they had all their power reliant on wind and solar, and they basically took offline their nuclear and their coal-fired power plants. They had no backup. Why did they have no backup? They had a spike in their system. It could have been from what they were claiming. I kind of doubt it, though. It was some sort of spike from use of power, and it basically had the whole thing trip and go down.
Wait a minute. So, are you saying Dr. Octopus was trying to power his the fusion
Maybe, I
power
don't know.
thing.
I don't know, man.
It sucked too
But
much juice.
But they were trying to go net zero. They were trying to do all green energy. And they were trying to stop using their nuclear power and coal-fired power plants, which is silly. They could have used it as a backup and it wouldn't have happened. So I kind of feel like it's almost like bad foresight or whatever it might have been. But maybe it could have been a little bit more than that, because 2 years ago, we had something happen in America in Washington State near Tacoma, where 4 power substations got hacked, and it was 30 miles across south of the border of Canada, and right 30 miles north of this area, China was doing training exercises in Canada. And I thought maybe there's a relation. I don't know. And I thought that was maybe a test, and this could be a test. Could there be some big, power outage thing in the future? Like someone wants this to happen. I'm not saying that's the case. Who knows? But I just think it's a little curious, because I feel like this could have easily been avoided. And they also had a hack 3 weeks ago in Europe on some supermarkets there. One's called Co-op. I forgot what the other one's name is. But what happened was they had empty shelves for 3 weeks in some areas in their store because of a hack. And you remember 4 weeks ago in America, they were telling us we're going to have empty shelves here. And the media was talking about empty shelves all the time. And all of a sudden it happened in England, and it actually happened for 3 weeks, partially because of a hack. So I thought that was a little weird too. Why was the media talking about it before it happened? It was just really weird. And they were talking about it over here because of tariffs. But over there, it just happened because of a hack. So I thought it was really strange.
So
let
me ask you, let me ask you about this, because you said the thing about tariffs. Do you think that the tariffs have do you think that there's a significant risk of there actually being bare shelves in the grocery store
in America
due to the tariffs?
No, because most of the stuff we buy abroad is not food. Although if you mean empty shelves like vacuums or something, yeah, if they never made a deal for 6 months, yeah, you would have empty shelves in like the vacuums and TVs and stuff. But the thing is, though, China sells to us in India. So India and America at the same time put heavy tariffs on China, forcing China to lower their tariffs so that India and America can sell into China. So China sells all their stuff to us in India and other places. So they're like employed by us. So they're not going to go forever not making a deal with us, because they're not going to get a paycheck. China ain't going to get no paycheck if we don't buy their stuff. So that's why they're negotiating with Trump, because they have to, or they're going to have no job. They're going to have no money. They're not going to be able to buy anything. So that's why I knew that wouldn't happen, is because of that reason. But
I see. Okay. All right. Well, we played enough of this. We understand what's going on with the power.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Will be our last story. We're going to cover the Diddy stuff.
But I should mention 10% of our food does come from foreign countries, so maybe 10% would have went empty. Eventually that could have happened a little bit. But
yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Let's see here what we have. Here we go. Here we got some Diddy. Here we go.
I was in the courtroom as Cassie was testifying, so let me tell you guys everything that you didn't see or may have not heard, because it's a lot. I will say the most damning part of her testimony for me is when she describes a freak-off where Diddy and another man, an escort, are standing on top of her while she is laying on the floor high off of ecstasy.
Now, this is the part that you were talking about, and I didn't say anything about it because I wanted to play the video.
It's like waterboarding.
This is kind of what this is kind of what you were talking about. So check it out.
This is like the most messed up thing ever.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
And they are urinating on her face to the point where she is choking on their pee. And to further give context, on the right-hand side of the court seated is her husband, Alex Fine. On the left-hand side, Diddy's 6 out of 7 kids are sitting in the courtroom, as Cassie is describing, having weekly freak-offs for years that would last 2, 3, one lasted up to 4 days. She talked about damaging hotel rooms so bad in one instance that they had to pay such a hefty fee because the hotel told them that they needed to completely redecorate the room after a freak-off. After a freak-off, there would be blood, urine, and lots of baby oil. There was so much baby oil.
What is up with the baby oil, bro? The baby oil thing is, that takes me out. Just that room, that the image of his bathroom, like the master bathroom or something.
Oh yeah, with all
it's
that
got
stuff.
so much baby oil. What?
I think there's something else in the baby oil. I don't think it's just baby oil.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's something going
pretty
on
much,
there.
I think that's what people think also.
I think there's something going on.
But if you're having weekly 4-day long freak offs, maybe you need that much baby.
Maybe they're all. It sounds like they'd be on something while they're doing this. Because how could you go 4 days? That's insane.
That's crazy. Here, let's keep going.
There was also so much baby oil talk to the point where the judge at one point told prosecutors, wrap it up. But before we even got there, a very, very pregnant Cassie was called to the stand. She was wearing a tight brown turtleneck dress that was hugging her baby bump. When she sat down, you could tell she was nervous. And if you couldn't, you quickly picked up on it, because once she started talking, you noticed that she paused a lot. She would sigh heavily before she answered a question. One of those moments was when she explained to the court that a year into their relationship, that Diddy had approached her with this fantasy that he had. He called it voyeurism, where he wanted to see her have sex with another man, later referred to as freak-offs. She said her stomach dropped. She was 22 years old. She described herself as very naive and a people pleaser. She said the only reason that she agreed to it is because she knew it would make him happy, and she was afraid what would happen if she said no. That's also around the time, she says, that he started to get abusive. Most of her testimony today was spent on talking about these freak-offs, the different escorts that they would use, the different hotels that they would use. She said that she would find escorts off of Craigslist and this escort service called Cowboys for Angels. And to describe them, they weren't the most attractive men, right? They were very average looking. Some of them weren't even conventionally attractive. One thing they had in common is most of them were black, because Diddy preferred for her black men with a big D, she said. At one point, Cassie broke down in tears when the prosecutor asked her, why didn't you leave? If the freak-offs, as you explained, were so disgusting and humiliating, why not leave? And she started crying and said that she was very deeply in love, and this was the only alone time that she could get with Diddy. And it got to a point where this was kind of
That's
the
not alone time.
Dude, that's like
That's not alone time. That's not alone time, dude. That's like messed up. That's not alone time, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't mean to trivialize the seriousness of this, but that is not alone time. You're like doing another dude.
It
That's
seems like
not alone.
He gets women that are young and naive to do this stuff, and then they fall in love. It actually reminds me a little bit of, well, technically Andrew Tate a little bit. I mean, he did some weird stuff too. Not like this, not bad like this, but like he would get young girls to do stuff for him. He'd fall in love, get him to fall in love with them, and then he'd have them do cams, right? But it's a little bit different.
Well, so
but
here's
still not good either.
The problem with all of this stuff is, how do you know if there was consent or not? That's the issue. And if a person is of legal age, and if they appear to be consenting, if she's consenting because she wants to please him,
right,
is oppressive as much of a scumbag as you think that this dude is, that's not illegal. I mean, I'm not justifying anything.
Like there's a lot of, I just get this feeling there's a lot of drugs going on, and that's why they would have 3-4 day ones. And I'm wondering if this oil had drugs in it that kept them high or something. I don't know, man. I just get this weird feeling like you can't do that for 4 days unless something weird's going on, right? Like drugs or something.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Let's keep going.
Connection that she was getting from this man that she was dating. So much more that I'll cover in another video, including his incessant phone calls, him tracking her down with his security, and her never being able to escape him.
Oh, dude. Not the best guy in the world.
No, I'm going to tell you, but is disgusting as this dude is, and I think he's a total scumbag.
Yeah.
As disgusting as the dude is, he's maybe he's maybe a middleman. He's maybe middle in the pyramid.
You think
he's
there's worse?
About middle.
So you think there's worse? You think there's worse?
Oh yeah. So what I'm saying is, the people that are allowing him to do this, You know,
or worse, maybe
they're way
Or-
worse.
So you think this is tied to Epstein in any way? Because it seems like they're related or similar stuff.
I don't know if it is necessarily related to Epstein. I think though they're using the same strategy because the same organization, the same strategy has been around for a long time, and a lot of people
weird.
have seen it. So I think that it's different people that are in different positions in this pyramid.
I wonder
right?
if there's like a lot more of these. Like, is there more than just these two? Is there, like,
I think
another six,
that there likely
7?
is. I mean, I think that there likely is.
God, dude, it's crazy.
And really, I think what caused this stuff to blow up and probably to come to light is because Diddy has had a really, really bad drug addiction for the last like 10, 15 years. Really, really bad. And so I think what's happened is stuff has slipped and hasn't been as tight as it would have been if he had been in control of his faculties. Because he's got these cameras filming all the time, and that's honestly, I think that the reason that he was allowed to continue doing these freak offs and didn't get pulled, taken out a long time ago, is because he was collecting video footage. I think that video footage is being used as sort of blackmail. Like this.
Just like the other
people
place.
are up. Yeah, but to the people
Jeffrey.
that are up the chain. For him, he was doing it maybe to,
I think he liked it. Obviously, it sounds like he liked it.
Well, I think he was doing it probably because you can have some memories of this stuff, and you can have videos of people doing freaky stuff. So it's like prawn or something. So he could do it for that reason.
Kind of crazy, dude. Like, how do you get that way? It's just nuts.
But I think that the other reason was for the sake of security, because everybody's high. He's high all the time.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
the tape,
you need security. You don't know what people are doing. If stuff winds up missing, you want to have some kind of idea of what walked off and with who, right? If some crap goes down, you want to have an idea of who to look at for it. And
maybe it started off, he just started doing it, and then it like turned into this, and then he started using the tapes for blackmail and stuff. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. His boss, the person that he learned this stuff from, his boss, that he was basically groomed by his boss.
So do we know who his boss was?
Yeah, he's a white guy. He's a executive for the same company.
So they're doing this stuff before.
So check this out. So check it out. I don't think it was called freak offs, and I don't think it was to this extent. This is just like crazy. This is like
this is like nutsoid, man.
You don't need that much baby oil, okay? I don't care. Okay,
dude, he had like a lined up, man. It was just lined up everywhere, baby oil.
Yeah. So but
that's crazy.
But that Diddy went from being, what was it, like an intern, to vice president of the record company in less than a year.
What?
Okay, so
damn.
Yeah, so that tells you that somebody got a hold of him.
They like those tapes.
Was showing him the ropes. Showing him the ropes, getting him, and then there you go. I'm just
damn.
This is
1 year. That's
this
crazy,
whole thing is
man.
deep. And by the way, everything that I'm saying is allegedly.
I haven't looked into it. You looked into this a lot more, I can tell. I haven't looked into it enough.
All right, let's see here. I've done a few shows on this topic. Let's see what's next here.
I did hosting parties when Sean approved them.
What comments did Sean make about your physical appearance?
That I look too Mexican with my hair like that.
How did he like your nails?
White, French tipped.
Hair?
It varied. I shaved my head in 2009.
Your body?
He told me to work out, prepare for the freak offs.
How did you feel about his comments?
It varied.
What else did Sean pay for?
Cars.
Did he give you cash?
Yes, but he would take things away depending on how he felt.
What else would he take away?
My self-confidence.
Who would take things away?
Staff. I assume staff.
At this point, there was an objection by the defense. Then the judge said to disregard the last answer.
Who took your laptop and phone?
Security.
How long would they be gone for?
However long I was being punished for.
How often were you in contact with Sean's staff?
Daily.
Who are in these photos?
Christina Coram and Ms. Fletcher.
What did you call Ms. Coram?
KK.
And who's this?
D-Rock. He was Sean's security.
How frequently were you in Sean's residences?
All the time.
Did they all have safes?
Yes.
What did you observe in them?
Cash, jewelry, cameras, and videotapes. In New York, L.A., Miami, and Alpine, New Jersey.
Do you recall an incident between Sean and Suge Knight?
Yes. We were having a freak-off in L.A. D-Rock came in and said Suge was down at a diner. Sean drove over there.
What was your reaction?
I cried, said don't do something stupid.
Were you ever handed a gun?
Yes. We were going to a club in downtown L.A. We'd taken mushrooms. I was high. I was told to put the gun in my bag. I was freaking out.
Who was present?
A driver, security, and Sean. Another time I saw them get dressed and grab guns and leave in an SUV.
How long were they gone?
30 or 40 minutes.
Let me switch topics. How soon into the relationship did Sean mention to you?
First 6 months or a year.
How old were you?
22.
Why did you agree to try a freak-off?
Good question. I wanted to make him happy.
Where was the first freak-off?
One of his homes in Los Angeles.
Who is this?
The first escort.
Do you know his name?
No.
I'll call him the first escort. Were you aware he was paid?
Yes, to dance and to have intercourse with me.
What drugs did you take?
Ecstasy and alcohol, before things started.
Did you disguise your appearance?
Sean said we would disguise ourselves. I wore a masquerade mask.
What was a session in a freak-off?
Until the escort finished.
How many sessions with the first escort?
At least 2.
How did you feel?
I was high, so I didn't feel much. Dirty and confusion, and that he was happy with me.
Why did you feel you couldn't say no?
I didn't want to make him angry or upset.
It's like a lot, man. It's like really complex. Like, this is not some simple thing you're doing. This is very complex.
It is very complex. And then here's my last video. This is also on Diddy, on this business. Here we go.
So the defense started out by asking Cassie Ventura if she was in love with Sean Combs for 11 years. And then they said, you believed that he needed you, right? At which point Ventura said, in some ways I did. From there, the defense pulled up several emails and text messages from early in the relationship between Ventura and Combs. Now, I'm not going to lie, some of these messages were very explicit, but they show Ventura expressed that she couldn't wait at some points in time to have sex with more than one person. Now, on background, Ventura testified that she first became intimate with Combs on her 21st birthday, which was August of 2007. Now, less than 2 months later, she sent an email to Combs in which she expresses her love, but she also talks about her insecurity, wondering if Combs was more interested in her friend. So jurors heard part of that email. I'm going to read it. It said, quote, maybe Carrie would have been better. I really do love you, and I hope to just be able to learn what it is you want in a woman and give it to you. The defense said this is the beginning of showing that their relationship was complicated. So there have been a lot of questions about whether Ventura actually wanted to take part in these freak-offs or if she was forced to do so. And the defense introduced an email in 2009 in which Combs sent her something saying that he wanted to be with her, asking her, I want to do what you want me to do. And part of her response said, I need to feel safe, like home, like this is my husband, and this is, and she said in big letters in this email, the only man that will ever have this aggressive sexual side of me. She went on to say that I'm nervous, I'm just becoming the girlfriend that you get your own fantasies off of with, and that's it. So the defense started out by asking Cassie.
There it is.
Huh. You saw that picture of her. You could see, like, he looked like a wolf behind her, and she looked very, like, not knowing what she wanted, or just looked confused, or you know, young, and it's like, man.
Yeah, this is a terrible story. This is, I mean, this is like, I mean, would you have predicted something would have blown up like in the magnitude of this. This is really ridiculous, and this is just the court case of they're just barely getting started, man. There's going to be so much stuff that's going to go in there. I covered the thing where TD Jakes stepped down from his church. Of course, his
was
daughter,
it around the same time too, right?
Well, no. So here's what happened.
I thought he just recently stepped down.
So check it out. He did recently step down. I'm talking like last week. Like the news came out like last week or the week before last. But he had said that he was passing her the reins, and this was like a year ago or something, but that was for that Women Thou Art Loose ministry thing that he does, not the church. Then
Potter's house, right? Potter's house.
The Potter's house is the church. So then, so now he is stepping down. But when he stepped down, he told the congregation that his son-in-law and her have been running the church for the last long, period of time anyway, right?
Really?
So there's a lot of
he's
of weird
prepared
stuff, man.
He prepared it, and then once the court case came out, it's kind of like he stepped down then, but he had already started to prepare.
Well, he's being sued. He's being sued by a couple people that are claiming that he was doing some, this is all allegedly some grooming kind of behavior or something. So
there's a lot of people that have been stepping down too.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people getting in trouble. There's another guy. Did I already close it? There's another guy who, here it is. Michael Brown. Michael Brown, he had to step, or he got into some sort of sexual abuse scandal too. Yeah, but then he's returning to ministry, even though the allegations haven't been. People are still saying that there is definitely misconduct, but the guy he went right back to his ministry, his church. And there's like tons of these guys. Like I'm thinking a lot of these guys are getting in trouble now. It's like a ton. And I feel like this is God doing this. Like I feel like God actually removed Pope Francis and put this new Pope in. I think he is better than Francis, but there was a weird prediction from 2000. Where was it? I got it around here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. Right here. There's a prediction from Kim Clement that the spirit of Pythos would be destroyed between April 1st and May 1st. And what's really interesting about that is that's during that time is when Pope Francis died. And I feel like he was teaching stuff that was really bad. Like in September of last year, he said all religions lead to God, which is straight up heresy. He was saying the most ridiculous stuff that's 100% not Catholic, not even Christian at all. And I feel like God removed him because of it. And maybe that's why we have a new Pope. But this guy predicted that the spirit of Pythos would be destroyed. And then he also is predicting that this year in the fall, around September, there should be a lot of people removed. It says many will fall in the fall. And I don't think it's just, it's everywhere. Religion, the church, government, like everywhere, everything, every sector of society. That's what I think all these scandals are, is God removing people. And the thing about the Diddy trial, a lot of people don't know or remember this, is that how that whole thing got started? I talked about it many months ago. They were trying to get Trump into trouble in New York. So they canceled a law or something about going really far back in the past and digging up stuff. They canceled it so they could dig up stuff on Trump. And what ended up happening was that's when Diddy got in trouble, was from that. When they were trying to get Trump, they actually got Diddy accidentally. It's just funny, man. Because they were trying to dig up stuff on Trump to get rid of him, right? And they're like, oh, we got to go farther back in time, and then all of a sudden all these actors started getting in trouble because of this change in the law. And then that was when Diddy popped up too. So it's like it backfired, kind of.
Well, and if a lot of these politicians and
that's it,
and stuff at these freak offs,
man. it's not just Hollywood and the music industry. I think there's some politicians too, and kings or prince. There's a king, or not a prince from England, right? It went over to him too. There's a couple of them, I think. So yeah, man. That was a good show, though. What was it? 12:30 already, man.
Yeah. It's a real good show. It was good.
2 hours.
Yeah. It was good to get it going again. This show ordinarily, folks, this show will be about an hour and a half.
Yeah, we went long.
So we went a little long tonight because we haven't done a show for a while, but we're back at it, and we will. Yeah, right. Look at this. Arrived late, start over.
Start over.
Yeah, right.
2 more hours.
Yes, that's right. We'll do another 2-hour show. All right. Well, but of course you can replay this, and you can come back and check me out in the morning. And make sure you go over to Tony's channel. Probably most of you are already subbed at Tony's channels. God Rules, and then God Rules Sons of Thunder, and then also Sail Daddy. Sail Daddy 1.
And I got that name Sons of Thunder from our ministry, man. You remember Lightning of the Thunder Ministries?
I do.
That's where I got the name from. So, yeah.
I do.
I used to call it Lightning Ministries, I think, over on the channel, and I call it Sons of Thunder after that.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that's going to be our time, and we'll see you guys later. Peace out.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.